welcome back to my channel. If you like gnomes, be sure and subscribe. I've got a lot of good ideas coming up. If you want to learn how to make this one, the little beach gnome, stick around. I'll show you how. Okay guys, with this gnome, you're going to need the pattern. It's in the description below. You're going to need a bottle koozie. You're going to need a pool noodle. If you don't use a pool noodle and you just want to put stuffing into the koozie, make sure you don't add weighted beads because we are going to poke some holes in it. You're going to need a drink floaty, some faux fur, the little shoes, the noodles for the hair, and some glasses. All right, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to build our hat. We are going to cut these two pieces out of the chipboard, and we're going to cut these pieces out of the fabric. We're going to take the chipboard and we're going to go ahead and break up the fabric so that we can roll it and it won't crease. Just keep doing that on it and it'll break up the fabric, the fibers. Go ahead and take a little bit of glue and we're going to glue it around to make the circle. And that's going to be the inside of our hat. We're going to have two layers on our hat and we're just going to tape that up so it stays together. Just put a little tape. You can use any kind of tape you want. I just use the painter's tape because it's easy. I have that. Just tape it there. And then we're going to go ahead and add the top part. Don't squeeze this so you can get a nice circle. Make sure it's even all the way around to do the top. And we're going to draw a circle in the middle. And that's the line that we're going to cut our slits through to fold over the top to put that on top of our hat. Just go all the way around and put about, half-inch slits all the way around so we can fold it up over the top, and then we are going to tape that onto the top of the hat. Just go all the way around and cut those slits. Then let's take those slits and we're going to fold them forward all the way to that line that you just drew, and that's where so it'll set flush on top of our hat. Just make sure that you're folding all those tabs right into where the circle that you drew. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take that and we're going to put it on top of our hat, and then we're going to glue it on. And then we're going to come back with some tape and we're going to glue it down. So just take that glue gun, just go all the way around those tabs. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to have a top on the top of this part of this hat. Just glue that down, hold it down, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put tape all the way around it. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it is going to get covered up. Just tape it all the way around that hat. Because the piece that we're going to cover up with fabric is going to cover all this up. Okay, then we're going to take our circle. We're going to put it on top of our hat. Just put a little dab of glue. I'm using Tombow glue. You can use any kind of glue you want. I did not use hot glue because I didn't want it sticking up anywhere. Just push that on top of there, and then we're going to go back and we're going to cut slits out of here, just like little triangles, about every half-inch, so that we can get that folded down flush over the top of that hat. Go ahead and turn this top over so that you can see the top. And that's how I'm doing my little slits. About every half-inch. Okay, then we're going to take our glue. I'm using Tombow glue again. It's a real good glue, but you will have to wash your hands after this round because it does get really, really sticky. Just put a little bit of glue all the way around, push those tabs down. And again, don't use hot glue because you will have little ripples where you can see the hot glue. Just go all the way around and get that pushed down good. All right, then we're going to go ahead and put that aside. And we're going to build the top part of our hat. We're just going to take our top pattern piece and glue it down to our fabric. Just do it on both sides. And then again, we're going to go around this one and do the same little slits that we did on the top all the way around so that we can fold this over and have a nice finished edge all the way around. Just do these little slits about half-inch around. And we're going to fold that over with the Tombow glue as well. You could use Mod Podge or even Elmer's glue, but this glue dries really, really fast. It's a great glue. I use this. This is my go-to glue for everything that's not hot glue. Okay, then just take that and start gluing it down. Just folding it over and getting it completely finished out all the way around. And don't worry about it looking perfect on this side because you're not going to see it anyway. And then I go ahead and take my finger and smooth it out a little bit because then it puts a little bit of glue on your fingers too, and it makes it lay down a little bit easier. And when you finish with this step, you will have to wash your hands because that glue is very, very sticky and it will be all over your fingers. But don't worry about it being perfect because it is going to be covered up here in a minute over the top part of the other hat. Okay, and take it and we're going to fold it around there. The part that has the little tab in, that's what you're going to put your glue on. Just put about go about 1/4 of an inch in on this part. And you can put it over your hat and see exactly where you need to put it. But I'm putting mine about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to put it over the top of the hat, and you're going to have to pull that hat on through. It's going to be a tight fit, but you will be able to pull it on through there. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of tape on the inside of it just to secure it a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and put it over the top of our hat. And then just go ahead and push that hat on in there. I had to take it back off of there and trim a little of the blue tape because I did see it on top. So don't go all the way to the top of the hat with the tape. Just about a quarter of an inch down. Then we're going to take our little bill and build it. We're going to take 2 pieces of the fabric. We cut out 2 pieces of these and we're going to glue them together just along the very bottom edge. And then we're going to turn them right side out. So I would say probably about 1/8 of an inch up is all you're going to do. Just go all the way around it. And we're not going to glue the sides, just on the very, very bottom. Just make sure you glue that good. Then we're going to put that aside here in a minute and let it dry real good before we go on to the next step. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take our body. And this is the drink koozie. You can put your noodle in there. If you don't want to use a noodle, you can use like polyfill, but you will have to seal up the top real good. Just do not put weighted beads because we are going to cut the bottom. We're going to cut that up across the top. And we're going to come back in and trim it after we put our hands, so it doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're going to take our feet, the bigger noodle, and we're going to cut that in half. And this is going to be our legs. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull our wire out and trim that flush because we want those flush against the body. And we're going to do that on both of those. Just make sure they're both the same exact sides because you don't want to have one leg shorter than the other. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and pull our wire out, and we're going to cut off about 1/2 inch because that's where our stick is going to go once we put our legs together. Take a little glue that in real good just to make sure that that stays. And we're going to do that on both of them. Just cut about 1/2 inch on top, or really actually maybe 3/4 of an inch because we're going to put our stick in it. Just don't want it too much because we're going to be bending our legs over the floaty. Just get it glued in. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and glue it to our feet. Just put it all the way down. Make sure that they're flush all the way to the bottom. Make sure that they come out the same exact height. And if you're off a little bit, don't worry about it because he's not going to be standing up, so he won't be lopsided. Go ahead and add his pants leg. And if you can go ahead and cut your fabric out on the finished edge of the fabric that you buy, you won't have to hem up the bottom. But we're going to hem up the side so we have a nice seam in the back. If you don't cut yours out on the finish edge, when you cut out your pattern piece, you want to add 1/4 of an inch so you can fold it over to have a nice finish edge on the bottom. But I cut my pieces out flush because I just didn't want them sticking up. Going to go ahead and wrap that around the leg. Make sure that your seam is in the back. Wrap that around, and we are going to glue probably about 1/4 of an inch down, 1/4 of an inch to maybe 3/8 of an inch down on his foot. And you can go farther down if you want to. Just make sure you have enough to fold over at the top because we are going to put our stick in the top and we are going to glue that down so it sits flush with the body. We're going to go ahead and do that for the same for both sides. Just make sure that wherever you're gluing it, it's exactly in the same place as the opposite side because when the legs are next to each other, you will see if they're off. So just fold that around and then glue that down. And we are going to fold the top part in to finish it out. Just make sure that your seam is in the back. And then when you put your feet on, make sure you got the right on the right and the left on the left. Just go ahead and put that stick in there. And we're going to go ahead and take our fabric, fold it in, see where it needs to be, and then we're going to glue it down. Pull your stick back out, trim it off a little bit because you don't want too much fabric, just enough to cover up that opening at the top. And try to get it as flush as you can to that foot so that you don't see any excess fabric when you put it on the body. Okay, then just glue that down real good. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other foot. And you're not going to see this once you get it glued to the body because when we glue it, we're going to push it on there really, really tight. Just make sure that you get it all the way flush. You're going to go ahead and grab your drink floaty, and we are going to put our koozie inside of it so we can mark exactly where we want our legs. Just try not to get any hot glue on your floaty because you don't want to pop it. This kit that I bought had like 10 different designs, so you could use whichever one you want to. Figure out exactly where you want those feet, and we are going to cut a hole in it, and that's where we're going to put our sticks through. We're just going to stick it in there, see exactly where we want them, make sure before we glue them in, and we're going to glue those in. Just make sure your right foot's on the right and left's on the left, and that the feet are facing exactly like you want them before you glue them in. And you can arrange them however you want to. I just put mine sticking straight up. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, and I'm just going to add glue inside of there. And if you use polyfill instead of the noodle, just make sure that you put enough at the bottom so it will grab the stick. We're going to hold that down until it goes in there really good and sticks to it, and figure out exactly where the other foot is before you glue it. Just put a little bit of glue inside that hole where the noodle is and push that foot on in. And then we're going to glue that to the body as well, and just push it on there really, really tight until it dries. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and do our arms. We're going to take our little noodle and we're going to cut it in half. And we're going to start building up our arms. Again, on this one, I use the edge of the fabric where I cut it out. If you don't use the edge, you will have to add 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to fold it up. We're just going to glue down one side, and we're going to fold it in so we have a nice seam in the back of his arm. And then we're going to go ahead and glue our bead on there for his hand, and then down the edge for his arm. And we're just going to roll that up and glue that down. That way we'll have a nice finished edge on the back of his arm. I'm just going to roll that up onto there, and then we're going to do the same thing for the opposite side. Again, if you are not, if you did get your fabric on the edge of the fabric when you cut it out, you won't need to do the bottom. But if you didn't, you will need to add 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and fold up the bottom. Okay, now we got our arms done. We're going to go ahead and attach it to our body to see exactly where we want to place them. Put them on both sides. Then I grabbed a little rubber band and attached it. Okay, after you get that on there and figure out exactly where you want to put your arms, we are going to trim the top off closer to where the top of the arms are. And you don't have to glue the top down. That noodle is not going to come out of there. But if you did put polyfill in there instead, you will need to leave the excess on top so you can glue that down. We're going to go ahead and put a little glue behind his arms, the top part of his arms. And the hat will hold his arms in as well. So don't worry about getting too much glue. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take our flap. For the brim, we're going to turn it right side out. And what I did is I took it and I went back to my ironing board and I ironed it flush. So just take it and iron it. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and start attaching it. Take the middle of it, attach it to the front part of the hat. And then go ahead and glue the top part down. All the way around. Glue it together. Not too much glue, but just close to the edge as you can because it's going to be covered up. Okay, trim off, make sure it's even on both sides. And you will have a little excess to trim off. Just go right to the center of the hat and place the opened end up towards the edge, and then glue it all the way around. When we get done doing this in a little bit, we're going to turn it back over, but that's going to be a step down the road a little bit. We just want to get it on there really, really good, and then we're going to let it dry. At this point, at this end, you're going to fold this back. You're going to trim it off a little bit, and then you're going to fold it back, and we're going to glue it down. So watch when I do this one part down here that you want to make sure that you fold it back, because that's the part that's not going to show. Go ahead and fold it back, trim the excess off till you get to the edge, and then glue this back, because this will be on the underside of the hat when you turn your hat over. And let that dry after you put your glue in there, and then we're going to go ahead and take the other side, and we're going to come around to meet it, and we are going to turn our flap on the inside to kind of interlock with the one we just did on the outside. So go all the way around there, and we're going to turn our edge inward, and we're going to interlock those together. So turn it inward, and then we're going to glue those together. Go ahead and glue that flap down for the one that's inward, and then we're going to glue the two together, and that way they will have a nice finished edge on them. And then just glue those two together to interlock them. And that way when we turn it right side out, it'll have a nice smooth finished edge on there. Okay, now we're going to cut out our beard. We're just going to take our pattern, lay it down there, and we're going to cut all the way around it on the inside only. Do not cut through the whole beard. just on the inside backing only. Go all the way around, and then we're going to clean that excess fur off of it just by pulling it to clean it off. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take our hat, and we're going to pull our flap all the way down. And we put this aside so it dry real good. If you have to touch it up at all, you can just touch it up when you get it done. Pull it down, flush, and that makes our cuff. Then go back in and glue down any area that you need to glue down. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and attach our beard. We're just going to take a little glue on the top part, and we are going to attach this to the top part of his body. I probably came down maybe 1/4 of an inch. Alright, get that glued on there good, and we're going to figure out exactly where we want to put our bead for his nose, and we're going to attach our bead. I pretty much put mine right at the top part of my beard. Alright, now you got that put on there. Then we're going to go ahead and put our hat back on, and we're going to just put a little dollop of glue on his nose and on his arms. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue on the back as well, just to make sure that that hat stays on good. Just all the way around. And it doesn't have to be a lot of glue, just a little bit of glue. Make sure that you get enough glue on there so that if somebody decides to pick him up and pull out his hat just so they can look at him, it won't come off. Just want to get that on real secured. Then we're going to go ahead and put him up on his floaty. And we're going to attach his glasses. We're going to take his glasses, put them on top of his hat, and we're just going to glue the back part of the tab to the hat. Not a lot of glue, just a little bit of glue to hold it down. And we're going to do that for both sides. Okay, once we got all that glued down, make sure it's glued exactly like you want to. Then we're going to go ahead and attach his little bucket of Coca-Colas. And I got these at Michael's. And I went back in afterwards and added a little bottle to his hand. And I have had that little bottle for a while, so I'll give you a link to Amazon store that sells little bottles like that. Okay, and then when I finished with him, I decided to come back in and put a little bill stick out around his top part of his hat. I cut that out of the craft foam, and I did include a pattern for that in the description below as well. And just glued that right onto the top edge of his brim. Alright, there you have it. Cute little beach gnome. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see future videos, hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified when I have another video, hit the bell. Thanks for watching.